Now, let me tell you why you should probably skip the M1 Max and get the M1 Pro while saving some money. As someone who bought the M1 Max, I'm telling you, you can skip the M1 Max and just get an M1 Pro. Here's why. Okay. Now, before we start this video, I ruffled some feathers in my previous video when I spoke about the 8-core and 10-core conversation. I didn't adequately get across my point, so let me clarify a few things in this video real quick. So basically, on average, the 10-core M1 Pro chip versus the 8-core M1 Pro chip is about 20 to 30% of an improvement in most cases, in most tests. I've been seeing the same test as you guys, but what I was trying to get across as my point was that for pro users that saw that 20 to 30% improvement as valuable, that the ideal purchase would be the 10-core chip. That's essentially what I was trying to say without, I guess, saying it. So here, let me clarify. If your budget allows and your workload requires that extra 20 to 30% that's offered in the 10-core chip, I think that is the chip to purchase. Let's get into what I've been going through with these and why I would tell you that the M1 Pro is actually extremely good and might be worth it, actually is worth it over the M1 Max. Now, just for reference, my video editing workflow used to bottleneck the M1 machine. I previously was on this here 13-inch M1 MacBook Pro, and I was exclusively trying to edit on that machine until I started to add on a ton of animation, titles, and motion VFX plugins, which used to bottleneck that M1. Yes, I got the balloon on an M1, which caused me to go back to my iMac Pro and use that for my more intensive timelines, which all led to the anticipation of this machine right here, the M1 Pro. To be clear, I have an M1 Max 14-inch MacBook Pro over there as my main workstation, and I started off my labor-intensive workflow timeline in Final Cut Pro over there first. But here's where the magic happened. It got even more interesting when I took that very same intensive workflow and moved it over to this 16-inch MacBook Pro M1 Pro, which is the 10-core, 16-core GPU variant. All right, Unplug fam, listen, this is what we about to do. I got the 16-inch set up in my usual little area. Loving the screen real estate, I gotta say that, but we gotta see how does this thing edit. This is the 16-inch M1 Pro. I'm finna throw a lot at it. We're gonna see how it handles it. I'm already knowing that the A-roll gonna be fine, but I'm finna throw some motion VFX at it. Wait a minute, I gotta show you how this thing is scrubbing. Look at that speed on the scrubs. No type of hiccup. These are 4K multicam, 2 of them. So this is 3 4K cameras in one, and another 3 4K cameras in one. Whew, crazy. All right, you guys, so basically I did finish my edit on the 16-inch. This is the next morning after. I stayed up to 3 a.m. working on this video, and I just got in my zone and I just edited it as I normally would. And the M1 Pro base model 16-inch handled everything like a champ. It's actually really good. And I can say this now, the M1 Pro is probably more than plenty for the majority of people, even at the, you know, that level of like creatorship that I am at. Like, the M1 Pro is solid. Now this is the base model with just the 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's pretty nuts how well these machines are optimized and how they go about using things. At this point, I'm feeling very much team 16-inch MacBook Pro. I like the screen real estate I get in combination with my ultra wide. Like, it allows me to do a lot. Like right now I got YouTube playing, got my tweet deck, I got my group chat, I got my edit going. Like, I got a lot of things that I can accomplish all at once. And if you guys look at this edit right here, this timeline, hold on, scrubbing like nobody's business, like in real time, as fast as I scrub. And the export speeds were fast. I was able to do all of my titles. I was able to do my normal workflow with little to no hiccup. I'm not sure if the M1 Max is even warranted. I like the idea of the M1 Max having those extra GPU cores just for headroom, but in all reality, this M1 Pro can do plenty. Needless to say, it handled that project just as well. Now, for clarification, I put a similar timeline on the 8-core 14-inch MacBook Pro, and it did okay. Reason being is I had this similar issue that I used to get on the M1 13-inch MacBook Pro, which is like this audible sound noise when the waveforms haven't rendered properly or fully yet in time and I press play. It would just give me this beep sound. Actually, to clarify, just to show you that I'm not capping, I'm gonna FaceTime my bros, Terry Warfield and C-Kid. You guys are gonna get it here live on the video. Hopefully players pick up, because I need players to pick up right about now. Player.
What up?
Hold up, I'm recording, player. I just have to ask you a question. So you can tell.
All my Apple devices going on.
Oh yeah. See, C-Kid is over there, big time Apple user. You know what I'm saying? Everything ringing. When you FaceTime, you know, the iPad could go off, the computer, all of those things. I need you to tell the people how much I was complaining about the M1. Actually, wait. Before we go there, you heard the audio sound, the audible noise I would get when I was using this 14-inch base model MacBook Pro to edit my project, because I was on a FaceTime with you. You heard it, right?
Yeah, it was like a beat, like a weird beat noise.
Okay, how much was I complaining about the old M1 in preparation for these new M1s? Cause you.
Oh man, you couldn't wait. Okay, so here's the thing. CJ, when he creates his videos, y'all, he got like 50,000 layers he puts on. He puts on his video. So for him, the M1 couldn't keep up with his workflow. So this dude literally every day, man, would be like, man, I can't wait to get this new M1 Pro or the new M1 Max in just so I can test it out and try it out. But yeah, almost every freaking day.
100%. And you know, it wasn't no knock to the M1. It's just where my workflow fit in, right? How Terry not gonna answer? Terry need to get on, because Terry subscribers are trying to come for me from my previous video. I was trying to get Terry on here too.
Hey, side note though.
Okay.
He was, hey, side note, he was being a little disrespectful to the M1.
Oh, here we go. Oh, play it. All right, hey, I'm gonna hit you back, man. Case in point, why I told the pro users, if they were looking at the base model 14-inch MacBook Pro, to go with the 10-core, 16-core variant, because when I put that same timeline on this 16-inch, 10-core, 16-core GPU variant, I didn't get the audible beep, and also I got an M1 Max like experience, which told me that 20 to 30% for a pro user like me was valuable and worth the extra cost. My apologies for not explaining that in the previous video, but I knew this video was coming. Now, with all of that being said, this 16-inch MacBook Pro exceeded my expectations. Like, absolutely, I was blown away by the M1 Pro 10-core chip. It handled my workflow like a champ, and to be quite frank, it impressed the hell out of me. And for that very reason, I can confidently recommend the M1 Pro over a M1 Max.